He never believed in fairy tales. But after 24 years of marriage, through debt, disease, job loss, and 3 kids, he said something most men never do. My marriage is my sanctuary. And what might surprise you is that he's not alone. Over 1 million men were asked a simple question: what makes a marriage truly work? And their answers? They weren't about passion, not about romance, not even about love, the way you think of it. They were about something far deeper, something most men never say out loud. If you've ever wondered what it takes to build a love that lasts, not just survive, stay with me. Because what follows, there are 8 quiet patterns of truth, shared by men who've lived it. He thought love would be enough, but years later, he learned the hard truth. It was never about love alone. The way she looked at him that first night, the quiet comfort of holding hands during storms, the shared dreams of a house, a family, a future, it felt sacred, like fate had done him a favor. But years later, after the arguments, the missed anniversaries, the silence that replaced the laughter, he realized something brutal. Love was never the glue, because love fades. Love gets tired. Love, when not supported by something deeper, becomes a memory, not a bond. And he wasn't the only one who learned that the hard way. Over 1 million men were asked what truly made a marriage last. Not in theory, not in books, but in real life after decades of showing up, failing, healing, rebuilding. And what they said wasn't about passion. It was about alignment. Not chemistry, but shared values. Not butterflies, but backbone. Not I love you, but I trust you, I respect you, and I'll carry this with you. One man wrote, "We make fewer promises now, but we keep the ones that matter." Another said, "It's not that we don't fight, it's that we don't weaponize each other's weaknesses." They weren't trying to win arguments. They were trying to win peace. Because eventually, every man in a marriage learns this truth. Love is a spark, but respect is the firewood. Without shared direction, without the same moral compass, without a vision, both can stand behind even when they're tired, angry, or afraid. Love collapses. So no, the secret isn't falling in love. The secret is building something that love alone could never carry. And that's the first thing these men understood. Not when they said, "I do," but when life tested whether they still meant it. 10, 20, even 30 years later. He once believed marriage was 50-50ths, but the men who made it told a different story. It was never about balance, but about rhythm. You do your part, I do mine. Split the bills, share the chores, balance the weight, and it all works out, right? But after 2 decades and 1,000 quiet compromises, he realized something far less romantic and far more real. The best marriages are rarely balanced. They're responsive. Sometimes she carries more. Sometimes he does. Sometimes she breaks and he becomes the strength. Other times he collapses and her softness keeps him whole. It's not a scoreboard. It's not tit for tat. It's not a tally of who did more. It's presence. It's timing. It's knowing what the moment asks of you and offering it without being asked. One man said, "There were years I brought in all the money, but she brought in all the warmth. We never compared. We just kept showing up." Another wrote, "I learned to lead without controlling. She learned to follow without losing herself." That's not submission. That's trust in motion. Because the truth is, marriage isn't built by roles. It's built by understanding the weight each person can carry at different times and adjusting, not accusing. He no longer sees himself as the provider alone. He provides, but he also protects. He listens. He yields not because he's weak, but because he's wise enough to know. Some days, love looks like stepping back. Other days, it means stepping in harder. And what binds them isn't the perfect division of tasks, but the invisible rhythm they've found between giving, receiving, retreating, and returning. There's no manual for that. Just time, mistakes, forgiveness, and a shared decision over and over again to keep choosing each other, especially on the days when it's hardest to. Because in the end, it was never about being equal. It was about being in tune. Disappointment comes for every man, but the ones who stayed learned how to love through it, not run from it. No one tells you this before marriage, They tell you about love, about effort, about patience and sacrifice, and how it takes work. But no one tells you the deeper truth. That one day, you'll look at the person you married and feel completely disconnected. You'll see her, but not recognize the woman standing in front of you. Her laugh feels different, her touch colder, her eyes no longer light up the way they used to. And you'll wonder, what happened to us? That's the moment most men don't talk about. Because it's not dramatic, it's not betrayal, it's not abuse. It's just disappointment, subtle, quiet, heavy, and it's in that space, between the person you thought she was and the person she's becoming, that most men begin to drift. But the men who stayed, the ones who answered that survey after 20, 30, even 40 years of marriage, they didn't deny the disappointment. They walked through it. One man wrote, "I thought she'd always be soft, but life made her hard, and I had to fall in love with the version of her that pain had shaped, not the fantasy I married." Another said, "She changed, so did I, but every time we changed, we had to reintroduce ourselves and choose each other again." Because real love, lasting love, isn't about staying in love with the same person. It's about loving someone through their evolution, through grief, through hormones, through career failures, through menopause, through midlife doubts. Disappointment is not the end. It's the door, and only those willing to walk through it, to let go of expectations, to accept the real, raw version of their partner, find the kind of marriage that's built on truth, not fantasy. So when the spark fades, when the distance creeps in, when you look at her and wonder, where did she go? Maybe the better question is, am I willing to meet who she is today, not who I hoped she'd stay? Because that's what love looks like. When you stop needing it to always feel good and start letting it become real. They didn't survive by avoiding storms. They made it by holding hands through them. Some men walk away when the clouds roll in, when communication breaks down, when affection dries up, when resentment builds in the quiet corners of the kitchen. They tell themselves, "We're too different now. This isn't the woman I married. Maybe it's just time to move on." But the men who stayed, who made it to 20, 30, even 40 years of marriage, they didn't stay because life was easy. They stayed because they fought the storms, together. Not perfectly, not without pain, but with one decision. We will not let this break us even if it breaks us down for a while. One man said, "There were years when we barely spoke, nights when the silence was deafening, but we still made coffee for each other. We still showed up." Another shared, "I didn't always like her, but I never stopped choosing her, because I knew, if I walked out during the hard times, I'd never get to see the version of her that would rise after them." You see, what makes a marriage strong isn't the absence of storms. It's the presence of two people, willing to anchor themselves in love, even when they feel lost in the current. Yes, there were arguments, days without intimacy, moments of doubt so strong, it felt like everything might fall apart. But somehow, they found a way to stay soft with each other, even when life had hardened them. They learned to pause, not punish, to forgive, not forget, but forgive, to say, "This hurts, but I'd rather hurt with you than start over with someone who doesn't know my battles." Because starting over sounds easy, until you realize, starting over means reteaching someone how you take your coffee, how you get quiet when you're sad, how you can't sleep on stormy nights. And sometimes, healing what's been hurt is wiser than discarding what's been built. So no, these men didn't avoid pain. They walked through it, hand in hand, sometimes in silence, sometimes in tears, but always together. What kept him wasn't romance. It was the rare safety of being fully seen and still accepted. He wasn't afraid of hard work. He wasn't afraid of sacrifice. He wasn't even afraid of pain. But what terrified him was opening his chest wide enough for someone to see the parts of him that weren't strong, weren't proud, weren't whole. Because like many men, he was taught to perform, to provide, to protect, to be the steady one, the silent one, the one who doesn't break. But somewhere in the middle of the decades, between long work hours and quiet Sunday mornings, he realized something rare. "The reason I'm still married," one man wrote, "is because I didn't have to be perfect with her. I could cry. I could fail. I could tell the truth even when it scared me, and she didn't punish me for it. That was everything. Because what most people don't understand is this: men don't need a cheerleader. They need a place to take off the armor. And the marriages that lasted, they were built not on performance, but on emotional safety. Another man said, "She never asked me to be more than I was, but because of her, I became more anyway." That's the power of a woman who sees you, not just the role you play, who doesn't use your weakness as a weapon, who doesn't humiliate your doubts, who doesn't make you beg to be heard, but who listens, even when you don't know how to explain the storm inside. And that's what these long-married men all had in common. It wasn't wealth. It wasn't romance. It wasn't compatibility quizzes or love languages. It was this: she made it safe for me to come home. Not just to the house, but to myself. Because in a world that demands so much from men, to find someone who says, "You can put it all down here," isn't just rare. It's sacred. And when a man finds that, he doesn't chase excitement. He protects peace. Not because he's tired, but because he finally found a kind of love that didn't ask him to be anything, but exactly who he already was. Attraction fades, beauty shifts, but what never left was his quiet respect for the woman beside him. He still remembers how beautiful she looked in the early days, the curve of her smile, the way her eyes lit up when he made her laugh, the softness in her voice when she called him home. But time is a quiet thief. Years passed, bodies changed, energy dipped, conversation grew keter, more practical, less poetic. And somewhere along the way, the butterflies stopped fluttering like they used to. That scared him at first. He thought maybe the magic was gone. Maybe they were drifting into that flat space, where couples become roommates, not lovers. But then, something shifted. One man wrote, "I stopped looking for attraction in the mirror. I started looking for it in her character." Another said, "The day I realized I respected her more at year 20 than I did at year 2, that's the day I knew I was still in love." You see, romantic attraction is a flame, but respect? That's the foundation that keeps the house warm. He respected her not because she was always sweet, but because she was steady, because she held him accountable without shaming him, because she challenged his thinking without belittling him, because she took care of things he didn't even realize needed care. She didn't wear red lipstick every day. She didn't flirt like she used to, but she showed up when he got sick. She stayed calm when life turned messy. She carried weight without making him feel weak. And that's when he understood something every long-term man eventually faces. I no longer needed her to be exciting. I just needed her to be real, reliable, rooted. The marriages that lasted, they weren't held together by heat. They were held together by honor. Because when you respect someone's mind, their grit, their sacrifices, you still look at them in the morning. Gray hair, faded pajamas, tired eyes, and feel something deeper than attraction. You feel admiration. And admiration, my friend, is what keeps a man loyal long after beauty becomes background noise. His expectations died. And strangely, that's when love finally became real. He used to have a picture in his head. What marriage would look like, what she would be like, what he would feel, day after day, year after year. He imagined laughter in the kitchen, long talks under the stars, a woman who always got him without him needing to explain. But over time, something strange happened. Reality moved in, with bills, with sleepless nights, with kids who cried at 3 a.m., and in-laws who didn't knock before entering. And the picture in his head, it cracked. At first, he resisted. He thought, she should know me by now. We shouldn't have to work this hard. Love is supposed to feel easier than this. Hon. But slowly, through the humbling of years, through quiet disappointments and surprising recoveries, he realized something bigger. The problem wasn't the marriage, one man wrote. The problem was that I kept measuring it against a fantasy that never existed. Another said, she didn't change. I just finally saw her without the filter of my own expectations. You see, so many men fall out of love, not because the woman failed, but because the fantasy faded, and instead of grieving that gently, they resent her for not keeping it alive. But the men who stayed, the men who grew in their marriages, they didn't love their wives because they met expectations. They loved them after letting go of expectations altogether. They stopped needing her to guess his thoughts. They stopped resenting her for not being the woman she was at 29. They stopped waiting for every moment to feel like a movie scene. And in that release came relief, came clarity. I didn't marry perfection. One husband said, I married a person, and people are messy, but they're worth it. Because real commitment doesn't say, I'll stay if you keep making me feel a certain way. It says, I'll stay even when the feelings change, because I still see something worth honoring here. And sometimes, that decision, made quietly at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday when no one is watching, is more sacred than any vow said at the altar. He didn't stay because he had to. He stayed because he chose to again and again. There's a difference between staying out of habit and staying from the heart. He knew men who stayed because they feared loneliness. Others stayed for the kids, for finances, for the shame of failure. But him, he stayed for a different reason. One morning, he shared, I was sitting on the porch, watching her water the plants. Nothing special, no music, no magic, just her in an old t-shirt, hair in a bun, barefoot on the concrete. And I felt peace, not excitement, not infatuation, but something rarer, the quiet knowing that this is his person. Not perfect, not without wounds, but real, present, still there, still trying. He thought back to the years when he almost walked, to the nights they went to bed angry, to the counseling sessions, the slammed doors, the tears they both swore they'd never shed again. And he smiled, because now he knows. A successful marriage isn't about always getting along. It's about always coming back, to the table, to the conversation, to the commitment even after it's been shaken. It's about learning that love isn't something that happens to you. It's something you build, brick by brick, truth by truth, apology by apology. And the men who made it, who didn't just marry, but grew inside that marriage, they all said the same thing, in different words. I didn't stay because I couldn't leave. I stayed because I became the kind of man who no longer runs when love gets hard. So, no, there's no one secret to a successful marriage. There are hundreds, some loud, some whispered, most invisible to the outside world, but all of them come down to this: choosing. Every day, even when it's hard, even when it's quiet, even when the world says, why bother? Because love is not just a feeling, it's a decision. And the men who made that decision, over and over again, they didn't just save their marriage. They found themselves inside it. Maybe no one taught you how to love like this. Maybe all you ever saw were men walking away, or staying, but going silent. Maybe you were told to be strong, but never told that real strength sometimes means staying soft. The truth? Marriage won't always feel magical. She won't always be easy to understand. You won't always feel seen. And there will be days, long, tired days, when you wonder if staying was worth it. But ask the men who did. Ask the ones with decades behind them, the ones who've buried parents, survived layoffs, held her hand through surgeries, and whispered, I'm sorry, more times than they can count. They'll tell you this: marriage is not about finding someone who completes you. It's about becoming someone who refuses to quit on what matters. It's about growing together, even when you're changing in different directions. It's about failing, forgiving, forgetting, and trying again. And above all, it's about choosing, even when the spark fades, even when the storms come, even when the world tells you it'd be easier to start over. Because at the end of it all, the men who made it, they didn't stay because it was always beautiful. They stayed because they knew how to build something beautiful, out of the ordinary. And that's the kind of love that doesn't just survive life. It walks beside it, through every season, with its head held high and its hands held steady. If you're still holding on to something good, even if it's quiet, even if it's messy, don't let go too soon. You just might be building the kind of story someone else will, quote, decades from now.